Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captured audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flicks.
Hello and welcome to Code Flicks, the podcast where we take a deep dive into your favorite sci-fi and fantasy TV shows and movies. I'm Andre Banner, and in today's episode, we'll be looking at PSI Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal, a series from 1996. These stories are inspired by the actual case files of the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research. So I first got interested in PSI Factor after the X-Files, being introduced to that whole series. PSI Factor was really where I started to understand a little bit more about the paranormal and the conspiracies, especially from a scientific approach. Their effect on society, who seeks the easy answers to the questions where there possibly are no answers. PSI Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal, is a Canadian science fiction drama television series which was filmed in and around Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and aired 88 episodes over 4 seasons from 1996 to 2000. In 1996, Chris Chacon and Peter Ackroyd co-created the show. I felt like it was worth doing an episode on PSI Factor, especially because of the impact it had on me when I was growing up, and to have such an effect that to this day I continuously will rewatch and rinse and repeat and get everything, taking every single episode. Even though I have been fully through season 1 and parts of the other seasons, and it's really, it's really, really good. So let's talk about the plot a little bit. PSI Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal, was a Canadian science fiction television series that aired from 1996 to 2000. The show followed the investigations of the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research, a fictional government agency that explored paranormal phenomena. Each episode typically featured a team of scientists that would go around and delve into cases involving UFO sightings, ghostly encounters, psychic abilities, and other unexplained occurrences. The series blended elements of science fiction, horror, and mystery, offering a mix of suspenseful storytelling and speculative exploration of the unknown. Throughout its run, PSI Factor garnered a dedicated fan base for its intriguing plotlines and exploration of paranormal themes. The show deals with fictional organization, Office of Scientific Investigation and Research, which investigates a variety of paranormal activities during the course of the show, whereas the first season mostly featured 2 cases per episode. From season 2 on the seasons 4 changes to a more conservative format. The staff of the investigating team changed over time, with case managers Connor Doyle and Curtis Rollins in the first season, who were then replaced by Matt Prager in the second season. Other main characters are senior data analyst Lindsay Donner, physicist Peter Axon, and Dr. Anton Hendricks. In season 4, Hendricks was promoted to director of the OSIR and was replaced by Nia Stone, who, while a recurring character, Claire Davison, was promoted to the main cast. Now let's look at some of the tropes. Alien abduction. In Communion, a biologist develops a set of supernatural powers after an alien abduction. Alternate universe. In Happy Birthday, Matt is transported to an alternate version of his life. Arbitrary skepticism. Matt, in his early appearances, even when saw the alien ghost zombie monster of the week himself, he reflectively dismisses any supernatural explanation. This changed over time. As himself, Dan Aykroyd. This is Dan Aykroyd for PSI Factor. Chupacabra. Harley Quinn features one attacking the animals at a zoo. Unlike most depictions, it's implied to be a mutated human rather than an alien creature. Clip show. In Tribunal, the team is questioned about the cases they investigated, and their testimonies are accompanied by footage from earlier episodes. Continuity nod. Peter gets very anxious around the snakes in Reptilian Revenge and mentions that he's always had a snake phobia. In The Buzz, Connor, Lindsay, and Peter have a frightening encounter with a swarm of rats. Afterwards, Peter comments, "At least they weren't snakes." Cult. Sacrifices featuring the murdering Satanist variety. Curse. The Curse plays with this. Several Egyptologists involved in excavating an ancient tomb suffer mysterious deaths. OSIR concludes that deaths are actually caused by toxic fungus growing in the tomb. Cyberspace. Virtual reality is explored in Cold Wounds. Diplomatic impunity. In The Warrior, a Chinese consul general uses diplomatic transports to smuggle valuable antiques out of China for sale on the black market. Dirty Cop. In The Kiss, a policeman murders a criminal who's in the process of surrendering, and his two partners agree to cover up the circumstances of the man's death. This comes back to haunt them, literally. Gendered insult. At the beginning of school thought, the shop teacher thinks that Marty isn't working hard enough, so he says, "Is the best you can do, Marty, or should I call you Mary?" Insectoid aliens. A possible origin for the meteorite bugs in the infestation. I thought everyone could do that. In Man of War, Matt asks Catherine how long she had remote viewing abilities. She replies, "Always, only I thought it was a game. I thought everyone could do it." Monster of the Week. Aside from a handful of recurring storylines, the show episodes tend to be self-contained. Mysterious Informant. Michael Kelly, an old friend of Matt Prager, who provides information on several cases. Obstructive Bureaucrat. Frank Elliston. The OSIR director for the first 3 seasons is the T, giving the team absolutely no slack and stepping in to block sensitive investigations. Is replaced by Dr. Hendricks in season 4. Our monsters are different. When it comes to monsters, the series plays a lot with conventions. Some examples are the Angel in Angel on a Plane appears as a friendly nurse that can appear to certain people and may not even be an angel at all. The zombies in Wish I May, who just live like normal people except they're dead. Gnomes in Little People, who threaten Prager's daughter because she let out about their existence. Several episodes, including Clara's Friend and Damned, feature ghosts that turn out to be psychic projections of living people rather than spirits of the deceased. Right-wing militia fanatic. The victims in The Fire Within turn out to be this. The villains in Heartland are Canadian's version. Sewer Gator. A mutant gator man living in the sewers is seen in The Underneath. Time travel. A particularly tear-jerking example in the episode Man Out of Time. A somewhat less tear-jerking example in Once Upon a Time in the West. Teleporter accident. In the episode Threads, 2 people are part of a skyscraper vanish due to a teleporter accident. And that's it for all the tropes, or most of the tropes, that can be found in PSI Factor. There are perhaps several elements of PSI Factor that make up the show that really speaks to what the show is about or what it is trying to be about. And these are the symbols and the themes that come out. The big one, paranormal investigations. The PSI Factor is totally revolved around investigating the paranormal, taking loosely tied real world events and situations and make it into a story that can play well in a TV series. Scientific inquiry. There are several elements of the show that would be considered out of the realm of scientific inquiry, especially supernatural. And, what most persons have said is that over time, things that we would have thought that we would not be able to figure out as a human race and delve into the norm, into the natural even more, learning about how things work and not understanding why they are or how they came to be. Some of those elements comes out, especially as the supernatural elements. Government conspiracy. Of course, that is a recurring theme that comes out in many of these, especially because of the way how the OSIR team operates and the hierarchy of them being answerable to a board or a governance structure. And so, in attempting to do some of these investigations and being audited and, having to have some account of what took place, these things, sometimes don't really make sense, and it wouldn't necessarily translate well to, skeptical, to be, to having these elements being questioned. Ethical dilemmas. So, of course, there is a lot of questions that are raised. Some good questions for the OSR team as they grapple with the issues that they're put in or find themselves in terms of how far do we go to find out what has happened. Is it important or more important to find out what happened or to just leave things be? Human potential. Of course, the whole adage that human beings are a puzzle, an enigma. So there is so much to human beings. We find that often we wonder about things like extraordinary abilities, persons with abilities that extends beyond what others might consider normal. Symbolism. So there are a lot of sometimes ancient ruins or occult symbols or even mystical artifacts that might be at the center of some of these plot lines and stories. And it really brings a lot of it really hints at some of the levels, the layers of the meaning that the team tries to do their investigation. They try to dig up and get the answers, but not necessarily being able to come up with all the correct ones. That's it for most of the themes and symbols that came out. So let's go deep into some of the characters. Dr. Anton Hendricks. Dr. Anton Hendricks is portrayed as a brilliant scientist with a deep interest in the paranormal. He is calm, rational, and highly analytical, often approaching supernatural phenomena with skepticism and a scientific mindset. However, he also possesses an open-mindedness that allows him to consider unconventional explanations when faced with compelling evidence. Matt Prager. As the field investigator for OSIR, Matt is depicted as more of a skeptic compared to some of his colleagues. He tends to approach paranormal cases with a healthy dose of skepticism, relying on logic and scientific reasoning to solve mysteries. Despite his skepticism, he is dedicated to uncovering the truth behind paranormal occurrences and often serves as the voice of reason within the team. Lindsay Donner. Lindsay is portrayed as a passionate and empathetic member of PSI team. She possesses psychic abilities that enable her to sense and connect with paranormal phenomena on a deeper level. Lindsay's intuition and sensitivity often provide valuable insights into cases that cannot be explained through conventional means. She is portrayed as compassionate and caring, forming strong emotional connections with both her colleagues and the individuals affected by paranormal events. Peter Axon. Peter is the resident tech expert of the OSIR team, providing scientific analysis and technical support during investigations. He is depicted as highly intelligent and resourceful, and with a knack for technology and gadgets. Peter's expertise often proves invaluable in unraveling the mysteries behind paranormal occurrences, as he utilizes cutting-edge equipment and technology to gather evidence and analyze data. Connor Doyle. As the team's medical doctor, Connor provides a unique perspective to paranormal investigations. He is portrayed as level-headed and pragmatic, approaching cases with a scientific mindset, tempered by his background in medicine. Connor's knowledge of anatomy and physiology often proves useful in deciphering the physical effects of paranormal phenomena on individuals. He is depicted as compassionate and caring, providing support to his colleagues and the individuals they encounter during investigations. In terms of production and design, the show utilized a combination of practical elements, visual effects, and storytelling techniques to create a suspenseful and eerie atmosphere. For the production, the series was produced by Alliance Atlantic Communications in association with several other production companies. It featured a talented ensemble cast and crew who worked together to bring the stories to life. Each episode typically followed a standalone format, exploring different paranormal cases investigated by OSR team. And that element they have their office set up, and they will be able to go to different locations, different areas, utilizing real world settings. So it's not particularly hard for a TV show of its size and budget to be able to do something like that at the time. The design of the show encompassed various elements to create a scene of mystery and intrigue. This included set design, lighting, sound effects, and visual effects. The set often portrayed realistic locations where paranormal events occurred, such as abandoned buildings, forests, or remote locations. Lighting played a crucial role in establishing mood and atmosphere, with darker scenes adding to the suspense. Visual effects were used sparingly but effectively to depict paranormal occurrences such as ghostly apparitions, unexplained phenomena, or futuristic technology. Practical effects were also utilized when feasible to enhance the realism of certain scenes, such as prosthetics for creature effects or practical props. And it's something to also note that as they mentioned, the visual effects wasn't a big thing. And I'm telling you, it really, really helps when you can do a lot of things real. Somebody who enjoys seeing things that look as real as they can, especially with so many different computer generated stuff and having things that just look so played out. You get so used to it, and it's just too much. So it's good when they have a light touch, especially with this series. They did but they didn't use it too much, that it's not too overbearing or too much. They sprung for, realistic stuff where they can, and it shows, and it comes out. It didn't take me too much out of the experience that I was having watching the show. I felt like, I could be in that world and actually be witnessing these things. I could actually feel the terror and the horror that happens, and it, in a lot of cases, it's fun to get into that. So, yeah, that's all I can say about that. The critical reception was quite interesting. In 1997, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry presented the Snuff Candle Award to Dan Aykroyd in absentia for hosting PSI Factor and being a long-time promoter of paranormal claims. Following the awards, CSI fellow Joe Nickel wrote to Aykroyd asking for the research behind the cases presented on PSI Factor, particularly a claim that NASA scientists were killed while investigating a meteor crash, and giant eggs were found and incubated, yielding a flea the size of a hog. Yeah, that was quite interesting. So, I'm guessing that from this particular criticism was more aimed at the realistic element of the show. And the fact that, with every episode, they say it's based on case files. But being based on doesn't necessarily mean taken straight from. It means adaptation. It means adding, subtracting, or probably just not using any of the case file any at all and just going off the inspiration. Yeah, that has happened in many cases where they put based on real life events. So, yeah, that criticism I can totally get behind and understand that. Yeah, it's like, show me the proof of what you purport to say is coming from something real. So, of course, there's a big cultural impact that has occurred, for PSI Factor and its airing. And perhaps in some ways it took inspiration from X Files. But, who can beat something that is found on a lot of major streaming platforms to this day? So, is it possible to have multiple favorite moments from a TV show like this? Yes, it is. There are so many. I liked season one with the story set up, two-story format that they had for an hour. Um, kept the story nice and tight. But there's the time that it took to tell the story. You could see that they were making an effort to put as much information in and as much as they could into that little slot that they had. It, allowed for a completely new set of circumstances to, be aired each week. So, going forward, how it would put, all of that. Episodes about ghosts or haunting that usually turn out to be something that can be explained away. It wasn't necessarily something supernatural. It was perhaps somebody left on a stove and, the fumes causing hallucination or something like that, right? Unexplained phenomena, which seems to raise questions or, leave you guessing at what the answers are. By the end of season 1, Conan Doyle was killed off. And I have perhaps not watched over that episode yet because it has so much of an emotional connection for me because, that episode really poked at the hamstring, the heartstring, sorry. And I really think that, I would definitely watch it, but I'll have to be at a good emotional state, to rewatch that. By season 2, there was a high that was built. It got really, really crazy now. Stories had an hour to build and more depth could be added. It could reach further. We actually saw where story arcs started to actually take root here. The character development was much, much clearer, and it benefited from the situations that the characters found themselves in. In season 3, the theme grew darker, with more complex narratives. There were new characters that replaced others. And then by season 4, there were several plot lines that needed to be tended to. And they did. And perhaps because they realized that, this was where it's going to end, they realized that their time had come. And so they had to wrap the story. The creators probably, looked at it and, hey, we need to wrap up these stories. We know that our time is coming to an end. Or, we figure that we won't get a renewal for a 5th season. So, that's just it. Compared to X-Files, it was a lot less darker. I see there were several parallels to the X-Files, in particular paranormal investigations, the big one. Aliens, of course, and the government conspiracy. And of course, you can check out my episode on the X-Files. It's the very first episode that I did. You can listen to it. Throughout the series, it is set around actual case files. I believe there was a lot of artistic license taken with some of the stories. Yeah, after all, real life is not exciting and interesting as they make it out to be. What is that? Why did they kill off Conan Doyle only to bring him back? Why did the Grey Men choose to take over Earth? Why did Lindsay betray the team? These are some questions that we really need answers to. Alright? Share your own favorite PSI Factor moments or theories. So in this episode, we looked at the plot of PSI Factor. We looked at why it is that the paranormal phenomena continuously happen in the episodic tone that it was. We looked at some of the themes that came forth. The regular themes of government conspiracies, aliens. We also looked at some of the characters, the most interesting ones, the ones that had a lot of work done. We also looked at the production and design and how such a production would contribute to the overall world building of PSI Factor. Also talked about some of my favorite moments from PSI Factor. We looked at the seasons, what it really mattered, and even ask some of the questions that I'm not even sure if we'll be able to get answers to. But that's just how it is. I'd like to encourage you to subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. What are you doing? Why are you just listening and not subscribed? Share with a friend. You know, there might be an episode or two that are catered to you or a friend, and somebody else might like it. Thank you for getting this far. Thank you for listening to this episode and tuning in. You know that you took time out of your busy schedule to listen to this podcast episode, and perhaps even future ones and the past ones as well. You can go back and listen to them as much as you want. You can have that conversation. See you next time.